Thursday CFS, June 18th, we have a 30-minute AMRAP for our actual WOD, and then before we get started, we're going to do a 1-minute arch hold and 1-minute hollow hold. So laying on our bellies, we're just going to lift our arms up and our feet up and just hold. The two things I like to focus on is your head. So it's okay if you look forward, but looking down sometimes feels a bit better on the neck, and then also breathing. So you don't want to hold your breath. You want to make sure that you're breathing normally and not excessively lifting up. So it doesn't have to be the highest lift you've ever done where you're like holding your breath. So just your feet and arms off the floor is probably a big difference from how I know I sit all day. So that's a big extension. So just be kind to yourself just for a minute, and then hollow tuck for a minute. So even though you might be able to do feet out, hands out, you might not fully be activated here. You might be using some of your hip flexors and really straining the back. So we really want to activate, so we're going to pull everything in. The upper body's mostly, or I should say pretty simple for people to do, but the lower body sometimes is doing nothing in this position. So I like to think about pulling my knees into my face, not pulling my face into my knees. So my head's up, that's as far as it goes, and then I'm gonna pull my knees so they almost touch my face. So that sometimes helps, or just think about lifting your hips up. So that's your hollow hold. You're gonna do each one of those for a minute and then be done with it. Okay, then we're gonna do our 30-minute AMRAP. You'll probably do 3 rounds of this if you looked at like the time. So just kind of have that in your head. I love this WOD. It looks simple. It doesn't look intense as you look at it, but there is a lot of intensity happening. If you think of a gymnast doing, the classic hold on the rings, that's pretty intense, although he's literally not moving at all. So same idea here. We're gonna do side plank for 30 seconds. I'm gonna demo here on my knees. I love this. And inside plank, I wanna make sure I'm lifting. You shouldn't be perfectly straight. There should be like a little bit of a lift here. I'm trying to activate this side, and then you can play with your top leg. Lifting your top leg is actually pretty hard for a lot of people. So if you're inside plank and you're doing nothing, just watching the clock, you might as well play with different variations. Your other arm is doing nothing in that side plank, so also feel free to do some arm circles. Maybe you're gonna reach it overhead to get some mobility here. So that's always fun. And then prone plank is just looking down. So just a regular plank. I really like plank on my forearms. So whether you're on your knees or on your toes, you're gonna pull everything together. So I'm pulling my toes towards my elbows and my elbows towards my toes. Try not to just hang out in plank and do nothing. Try to see if you can really be activating and pulling everything together. So there's one option. And then you're gonna flip over and do side plank on the other side for 30 seconds. After those, we've got single leg hip lifts. So I'm gonna do first pulling my knee in, and I can look up. This does help to activate to keep you out of your low back, because if you go down, you might be using your low back instead of just your glute. So that's why sometimes you hear some of the coaches say, keep your head up. But if it bothers the neck, pulling the knee in keeps you from going into your low back. So this is a good one. Maybe the second round that you go through this, you might stick your leg out straight and you might move it because you're getting bored and you just need to keep yourself motivated. So adding those little movements, I highly encourage people to do that. It's like putting salt or seasoning on your meal. You're all having the same meal, but we're adding little different things to it, changing the recipe just slightly. So left and right for 30 seconds, then you're gonna do a powell raise. So going back to side plank just for a moment. The powell raise is 15 to 20 reps. You could theoretically use a timer for this if you really didn't want to count reps, but I'm inside plank, I'm taking my arm straight. This is huge. The elbow for most people bends, so really work on locking it out. And then raising straight up, I'm not going to go past for my mobility here. I'm just going to work on going straight up. So that is that. I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, L pops. So the hardest version would be lifting your feet up here, okay? And I usually use, anyone I've told this to, I use like a mark. So at my knee is kind of where I usually work, and I'm working on getting to just above my knee with being able to lift my legs up. So the further out I go, the harder that is. And you want to kind of find your edge. So I don't want to not put my hands anywhere or let them move and lean back and move around. I want to pick a spot and be like, okay, this is my spot. My arms are straight. If it's too hard, I can go back a little bit. But trying to find your edge where you can pick your feet up even just an inch. Once you get them up, you want to look at something on the wall and try to match that every time. Even if you don't get there, you're fighting to get there. So those are the L pops. If you wanted to alternate legs, so left and right, way easier, but still very challenging. If you have parallettes, you could hold yourself up in a parallette too if you wanted to like take it to this RX level, but these are really awesome. I usually do these in substitution for like sit-ups sometimes because the motion of the sit-up makes me dizzy. So those are my core work. Okay, so those are your L-pops, over-unders. So 15 to 20 reps. So you can physically step over something. I have a beam here, you could step over it. But typically when you step over something, the under is a different height. And so I don't recommend using one thing necessarily, but I'm just gonna pretend that I have something I'm hopping over and then something I'm going under. So one circle, so over and then under would be 1. So you can probably do 10 this way and 10 that way. All right, which if you do warm-ups with me, we always do this anyway. Okay, so those are your over-unders. And then hip walkouts, love these for the hamstring. So I'm gonna be in bridge, I'm gonna lift up my feet and I'm gonna take little tiny steps all the way out till my legs are straight, but my hips are still off the floor. And then slowly walk back in. There's 1, you get 10 of those, okay? Those are challenging. Obviously, if you need to rest, drop down and just pick yourself up wherever you leave off. Those are your hip walkouts. And then a hollow flutter. So in a hollow body, I'm gonna flutter my feet. This is the easiest version. However, this is actually pretty hard for people. Ask your grandparents or your parents to pick their legs straight up, laying on their back. It's difficult. So you wanna find your edge. So in a hollow, I'm gonna reach forward. Maybe I'm gonna have my hands over here, and I'm gonna flutter. They don't have to be way down here to be challenging, and sometimes I like to go up and down, kind of like going into the fire and then coming back out. If you wanna do the ballerina feet, where they're alternating, you can do that, and those are your flutters, 30 reps. So you're just gonna count one leg. So 1, 2, 3. Every time that one leg comes up, that counts as 1. So that's 1 round, and you're just gonna keep doing that until you hit your 30-minute AMRAP, and that should be good. Okay, I'll see you guys on Sugar WOD.